Hi everyone, Petrik here. So for today's video, this will be another one of my annual videos of the year. And I don't usually like to talk about the books that I dislike often, but of course I have to talk about this. So today's video will be about the 5 most disappointing books of the year 2024. And now I must remind you that they're not actually completely bad books per se, but they just disappointed me the most. Out of every books that I read in the year 2024, these are the books that disappointed me the most. And of course, it goes without saying that I will be posting the list for the best books that I read in the year 2024 as well really soon, most likely next week. Because right now, I finally managed to gain some of my energy back and also trying to beat the jet lag after my trip from the USA. I think it's time for me to make some videos again, and today will be that video. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. The first book that disappointed me the most, it was A Natural History of Dragons by Mary Brennan. This is the first book in the memoirs of Lady Trent, and it is also one of my priority series that I wanted to start and finish within this year. I managed to read 2 books in the series, and for what it's worth, the second book, The Tropics of Serpent, is a much better book compared to A Natural History of Dragons. But the first book, it was disappointing. I think I was very invested and engaged with the first half of A Natural History of Dragons. And also, come to think of it, this book, even the premise and also the narration, everything about it is quite outside of my usual comfort zone. So it's not a surprise that this does not click with me as much as I hope. But at the same time, the praises this book has and this series has received, everything led to me having quite a bit of a high expectation coming into A Natural History of Dragons. The writing style and narration by Mary Brennan, it was incredibly distinct. I think that's something a huge plus for me. I always love reading books where the main characters or the narration is distinct in its voice, and this one definitely got that. But somehow I felt more engaged with the first half rather than the second half of A Natural History of Dragons. And the second half is when the exploration and also the research about the dragons actually happened. But somehow the first part, the beginning portion, is the one that clicked with me the most. And then the climax section in A Natural History of Dragons was quite anticlimactic in my opinion. So everything about it, the overall reading experience of A Natural History of Dragons is that I enjoyed the first half and also I disliked the second half, and I felt disappointed with it. And I did enjoy Tropic of Serpents more than Natural History of Dragons, and I must say that the illustrations by Todd Lockwood, the interior illustrations by Todd Lockwood, they are absolutely gorgeous, and they are quite a saving grace to my reading experience of this series. Now, Tropic of Serpents, as I said, is a better book compared to A Natural History of Dragons, but at the same time, I have finished reading that and I still haven't kind of find my motivation to continue reading the series, and I'm still willing to do that. I think the third book will be the decisive installment whether I will continue or DNF the entire series. But for now, I would just say that A Natural History of Dragons is in my list of most disappointing books of 2024. But somehow, because of reading this book and this series, it actually led me to trying the Rook and Rose trilogy by M.A. Carrick. M.A. Carrick is a pen name for 2 authors, and that's Mary Brennan and also Alec Hallam's. And I think that trilogy, well, from my experience anyway, is better than Memoirs of Lady Trent, especially the second and the third book, The Liar's Knot and Labyrinth's Hut. So, well, it's not quite a bad deal, right? Reading this led me to a great series. So yeah, that's the first one on my list. And the second one, this is quite an unpopular opinion, probably a very unpopular opinion, because I know this one is very high, it's very well received. And this is not a fantasy book. This is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles, or Amor Towles, I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, this book, I had very high expectations when I'm going to read this one. I thought I would love this one, especially because people have told me that in terms of writing style, in terms of vibe, it kind of reminded them of reading The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And I did not get that. I did not get that at all. I think The Shadow of the Wind is a much superior book compared to A Gentleman in Moscow. But anyway, back to the point here. I love the writing style in A Gentleman in Moscow. I think Amor Towles has a beautiful writing style, but at the same time, there's nothing about this book that felt engaging to me. Like the plot doesn't feel engaging, and then the characterizations did not feel as well developed as I hoped. And also, there was not enough drama to captivate me. And at the end of the day, I just felt incredibly bored with reading A Gentleman in Moscow. It almost feels like I'm reading a book about someone who is in love with their own writing, but that's it. I know that's kind of like a harsh comment, right? But that's how I felt with reading A Gentleman in Moscow. But there's one thing that I must mention here. Because of reading this book, I tried watching the TV adaptation, and my God, I love the TV show adaptation in very much, and that's kind of like a surprise to me. So at the end of the day, it's not the story that is the problem, it's the execution. Because in the TV show, and it is a very faithful adaptation, it tried to adapt almost everything from the book as faithful as possible, and I think every plot point, every major plot point from the book is actually adapted into the TV show adaptation. And I just enjoy it so much. Right from the first episode of A Gentleman in Moscow, I was so eager to continue watching each episode. And I remember thinking, wow, I actually read this book already, but somehow this is so much more intense and so much more dramatic in the TV show adaptation. And so that's kind of like my point here. This kind of enhances what I'm talking about. A trope, a story, even though they have been done so many times, it all depends on execution. If you execute the same trope as nicely as possible, they are done correctly, then everything can be a great reading experience or great watching experience, just like A Gentleman in Moscow. And remember, this is the exact same story from the book, but it's much better in viewing experience, from my opinion anyway. And the music is so on point, and the actors, the acting, they are also good in my opinion anyway. But when it comes to book, A Gentleman in Moscow is in my list of most disappointing books of 2024. And moving on to the third book in my list here, and this probably will have a similar situation to A Gentleman in Moscow, and I'm talking about The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So yeah, this one, it was an incredibly disappointing reading experience for me, because I wanted to love this. I mean, I loved Knives Out, and I don't know why, when I went into the Thursday Murder Club series, I kind of expected the same reading experience as Knives Out. I remember trying this one because I just finished reading The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. And Robert Jackson Bennett, his book, The Tainted Cup, I think the pitch for that one is very, very accurate. People told me to read that. Now, not only people and readers, but also the publisher said that if you love Knives Out, if you love Sherlock Holmes, the duo of Sherlock Holmes, I'm going to at least enjoy reading The Tainted Cup. And I absolutely love reading The Tainted Cup. So because of reading that, I kind of felt like in the mood for reading more mystery books, because mystery in fantasy and sci-fi is actually one of my favorite subgenre. I love the element of mystery and murder mystery in my fantasy and sci-fi books. But for some reason, I don't read a lot of murder mystery or mystery books. So I tried that with the Thursday Murder Club series. And I have read only the first book here. For what it's worth, people have told me that the first book is by far the weakest of the entire series. But I tried reading the Thursday Murder Club, and nope. I did not click with it at all. There was no tension, and also the mystery wasn't interesting. And by the time the mystery had been solved, I just felt like that's it. I did not felt satisfied at all. So yeah, I was super disappointed with the Thursday Murder Club, the first book in the series. And you know, there will be a TV show adaptation of the Thursday Murder Club, I think next year. And yeah, that one, I will try to watch it. And when I was reading the Thursday Murder Club, I kept on thinking, I think this is the kind of book that would be better in TV and movie rather than reading experience. And who knows, maybe I will be proven right. But anyway, I will, just like the members of Lady Trent, I'm still willing to try reading the second book before deciding whether I should DNF this series or not. I know many people said that the series keeps on getting better and better with each book. And now, finally, for the last two books in this list, and again, this is pretty much just like last year, it is The Wheel of Time. And yeah, I'm talking about the 9th and the 10th book of the Wheel of Time series. First, let's talk about The Winter's Heart. I have finished reading Winter's Heart, I think 6 months ago, or maybe even longer. And that one was, wow, it was an incredibly tough reading experience for me. Only the beginning and pretty much the ending portions was engaging to me, and that's it. The entire middle half, it was a slog. True definition of the slog. And there was some part that was super cringe inducing for me. It involved Ran and his 3 wives, okay? Seriously, that part, I wish I could erase it from my brain. It felt like I was taking a peek into Robert Jordan's fantasy, and it just wasn't a pleasant reading experience at all. Not at all. And I think it doesn't actually fit the story, in my opinion. And that's probably an unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, it doesn't fit the story. And this is coming from me who consider Randalthor as one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Him and also Matt. Both of them are my favorite characters in the Wheel of Time. And I just did not like reading that part at all. But even excluding that part, the book itself, it's just too long for its own good. But the ending, it was amazing. And I'm like, why can't the entire book be as good as that? But anyway, because of reading The Winter's Heart, it took me months before I'm willing to try reading Crossroads of Twilight. And I've been reading Crossroads of Twilight for months. I just have no motivation. I don't know whether I could finish reading Crossroads of Twilight. And right now, I'm really on the verge of just, that's it. I will just read detailed summary of Crossroads and then jump into the rest of the series, because I heard A Knife of Dreams and then the last 3 books by Brandon Sanderson is a return to form, and some have even mentioned that the last 3 books by Brandon Sanderson is even better than the rest of the series. So I don't know, maybe I should do that or not, or maybe I will just punish myself and just read through the entire Crossroads of Twilight. And yeah, I know I haven't finished Crossroads of Twilight yet. In a way, if this is a different book, I could say that there's a chance it will get better. But from what I have read, I think that's about 35% of Crossroads of Twilight. I don't see any sign of this. Getting better anytime soon. So yeah, these are the 5 most disappointing books, or the 5 most disappointing reading experience of 2024 for me. I don't know about you. Do let me know whether these are considered unpopular opinions or not. But I know that book 9 and book 10, I don't think it is an unpopular opinion to say that I dislike them. I know that many people dislike them as well. But if you have read these books, if you have read all the 5 books that I mentioned in today's video and you like them, remember that this is just my opinion. This is just my list. I'm not trying to dissuade you from loving these books, okay? And most of the books that I mentioned today, with the exception of A Gentleman in Moscow, I still have hopes that the continuation to these books will be better than their predecessor. So I'm hoping that after Crossroads of Twilight, A Knife of Dreams, and then A Gathering of Storms, Tower of Midnight, and finally A Memory of Light, I hope they will provide me absolutely incredible reading experience. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the end of today's video. And as I said, I will be posting the best books of 2024, my best books of 2024 list, either next week or the week after, but it will be really soon. So yeah. Let me know what you think about my video today, and of course do tell me what are some of your most disappointing reading of 2024. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.